Okay, getting off to a little bit of a late start today. It's almost 6 o'clock. Uh, it's April 18th, 2024. Uh, mm, I've had a day today. let me take a couple of seconds to decompress. I probably should have done this before I even got on. I did get a couple of new superpowers figures in the mail today. I got another beat to hell Superman. I'm gonna try to reclaim and do something with that. I just take into adopting Superman action figures off of eBay when I can find them for cheap. Anytime I can get a superpower Superman, and I got Hawkman, which Hawkman, like I say, always makes for an impressive action figure. So you can see his emblem is almost entirely worn off, and he's got some little bit of paint rub on his beak there. But he's got both of his wings, and that was the main thing I was concerned with. Also, his legs are like ridiculously loose, but I can get him to stand up, so that's fine. But probably next time I do a Robin Hood retrospective, uh, which will probably be the next time I get a batch of Robin Hood figures. That'll be the one where I do a comparison between Dark Warrior and Little John and Hawkman, because I'll have all of those. So anyway, today I got to open for you Neca's glow-in-the-dark Dracula. It's Universal City Studios. Oh, that's old school. Got that classy new Universal Monsters logo on there. An authentic posable action figure based on the classic Universal's famous Mini Monsters collection from the early 1980s. So, and then we can see on the back, it's got all 6 of the figures in this line. I don't think Phantom of the Opera has been released yet. And Creature from the Black Lagoon was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, which means he's going to be expensive if I can find it at all. But yeah, this is not the same exact picture of Dracula that was on the original card. That was a different picture of Bela in the role. And also another difference, besides it just being a different picture in general, is they kind of airbrushed some fangs onto him. The action figure had fangs. Bela never had fangs in the movie. This figure also doesn't have fangs, unfortunately. Like usually I would prefer for him to not have fangs, since like I said, he didn't have fangs in the movie, but this isn't based directly on the movie. This is based on an old action figure that was based on the movie. So I kind of feel like he probably should have had some fangs, but we'll get more into talking about the figure in a minute. We do have the Lugosi trademark up there in the corner, and it's also on the back. And that means Lugosi Estate will get a cut of the chunk of change from this bad boy, and that always makes me happy to see. Uh, Going back to those earlier cards, which I should have around here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. I like pointing this out. Is the Cheney Wolfman. The Cheney Estate has their logo on the back as well. But unfortunately, I don't see a logo for Karloff on here anywhere. But hopefully, the Karloff Estate is still getting some money from the use of Boris Karloff's likeness. Or is it the Pratt family? I don't know. Did he ever legally change his name? He might have legally changed his name. I know Sarah Karloff goes by Sarah Karloff, but she could still legally be Sarah Pratt and just, use that name for a professional association with her father. Anyway, I do really like this particular image of Dracula. I believe this is taken from a frame from the film. This looks to me like the shot where he's hovering over Mina, I think it was. I think it was Mina in that scene. But yeah, let's go ahead and open them up. So I do have the Ultimate Dracula here, so we can compare and contrast. And hopefully I can get the bubble off without damaging the card any more than necessary. Come on, you. Oh, look at that. It peeled off there. That's too bad. I was still able to get the paper loose, though, but you can see it's kind of tore a little bit there. And tore off. He had better glue than the other two, unfortunately, in this case. I just want enough glue to hold it onto the card. Like somewhere in between The newest McFarlane figures and the Bronze Age McFarlane Batman that I could never find solidly attached to a card. Somewhere in between there, there's a happy medium. All right, so he's got a full bubble behind him, unlike his compatriots Frankenstein and the Wolfman, who only had like a little plastic pillow to support their head. Drac has a whole bubble to hold him in there, almost like a coffin. So here he is off the card, and you can see he has this vinyl cape like an old Star Wars figure. This is what, of course, the original uh, Remco Universal Monsters mini monsters figure came with. And man, does he look cool. So we can get a closer look at that face now. And you can see he's got, even though he doesn't have the fangs, he's got a little bit of blood drooling from his lips. So that's nice. This cape is going to get kind of wrinkled anytime you move his arms around. And it's a tight fit on there, too. I don't think that's the original one's anywhere near that tight. But he does have the high stand-up collar. Anybody who had the original figure remembers these kind of chintzy vinyl capes. And NECA, being NECA, actually, put some quality into it. So it does feel a little more substantial than the vinyl cape that the old one came with, and even seems to have a little bit of a leathery texture to it, which is nice. But I'm going to go ahead and take the cape off because I don't want that to interfere with the articulation too much while I'm moving around. So very carefully, I'm going to peel this off of his shoulders because I don't want to tear it. And maybe NECA's is a little more sturdy, but I do remember that the old vinyl capes like this that you get on these or the Star Wars figures, they did have a tendency to tear if you weren't too gentle with them. So we're just going to very gently pull this off. There we go. We can get a closer look at it now. And the stand-up cape or collar. Now, a Star Wars usually just like went straight across there, and you just kind of folded down the collar. But this was intended to be a stand-up collar, obviously, and they cut it separate from the rest of the cape. So that's nice. But you see what I'm talking about, how there's already like stress marks, like right out of the package, like how it's kind of stretched out of shape a little bit. But I did want to get a look at the figure just by himself. And we're going to compare a little bit to the Ultimate Dracula. And I went ahead and swapped on the snarling head because that was the head that they used for this one. But you can see what a difference a paint job makes, where we've got this one sort of like realistic looking Bela Lugosi head and this more sort of cartoonish 80s sort of paint job. And it makes a big difference in the figure. They both look like Dracula, but one looks like Dracula out of like a cartoon show or something. Like if Bela played Dracula on Scooby-Doo, this is probably what he would look like. And he's got a greenish tinge to his skin. And of course, that's obviously a result of the glow-in-the-dark paint. But they tended to do Dracula in those kind of colors when they put them on merchandise back then, make him kind of greenish or bluish or just chalk white. Whereas Dracula here, hi, Sean Franklin. Sean Franklin has joined the channel. How do you do there, buddy? All right. Sean Franklin recently had a birthday. So, so yeah, and you can see the kind of cartoonish red lips that they give. Again, this is how Dracula was merchandised in the 80s a lot of the times. And they try to make him a little more realistic nowadays. So, but to me, this hits me right in the nostalgia button. This is exactly how I remember him. Also, if you wanted to do it, you could take the fancier cape from the Ultimate figure and put that onto your glow-in-the-dark Dracula. If you wanted to do that, I miss my dog Blue and Star J Coffee. I miss my dog. Yeah, it's always sad to lose a pet. I'm sorry to hear that. So, but yeah, I had a dog named Betsy. She was a sweetheart. But yeah, so that's what he looks like with the Ultimate Dracula cape. It doesn't fit quite as snugly onto this guy. I wonder why that is. Because it does seem to be the same mold. I'm pretty sure that's the same mold. And it fits onto this one just fine. Although his neck does seem a little bit longer. Maybe it's just that it's not popped onto the joint all the way. Maybe the neck comes out. He's got the glow in the dark color on the inside of his neck socket. That's strange. But I don't know if this is the same exact neck. That's unusual. That's probably why it's not fitting as snugly onto this one. Even though it grips onto the collar, it does seem to be the same collar. So one difference also you can see, and this is the same on the Remco figure in the old days, is the ribbon that holds his medallion on has been painted white and not red like on the actual costume. I believe it was actually red. So on some ones it's dark gray or black if it's done as like a black and white figure. But they didn't bother to paint it a separate color on the Remco figure, so you just had a white ribbon. So that's, again, another explanation for that. And also, I noticed that they did not paint in the signet ring. So his ring is the same kind of greenish color as the rest of his flesh, the rest of his dead, rotting flesh. And one other thing they did with this versus the ultimate one is you can see that his widow's peak is a little more subtle there. Bela wore a hairpiece when he made the movie, give him a little bit more of that widow's peak, and it's way more prominent on the glow in the dark figure. Again, going back to how Remco was a bit more exaggerated on that one. So let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. Dracula can look down about that far. He can look up about that far. He can tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, move his head every which way around, pretty cool. Rotate his arms at the shoulders, move his arms up about that far. He's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which actually gives you a good range of motion there. And of course, the elbow rotates all the way around as well. He does have wrists that rotate all the way around and can move up about that far and move down about that far. He's got legs that can kick up about that far. There's a rubber trunk piece that does kind of hinder it somewhat, but how far are you really going to want Dracula to kick? He's not a kung fu master. He's a vampire. He does have a single joint of articulation at the knee, about 90 degrees of articulation, give or take, and that does rotate all the way around. And then he has an ankle that points down about that far, points up about that far, and it's on a rocker joint, so you can move it around back and forth that way. So pretty decent range of articulation on our figure. I'm noticing more paint differences as I look at it. For example, Dracula has a little bit of a hanky in his pocket that's painted white there. Again, painted black on this one because Remco didn't really do any paint detail they felt was unnecessary. So yeah, that was just pretty much how they did that. Man, this is so much like the figure as I remember it from when I was a kid. It's really taken me back. So let's go ahead and get the cape back on him. And again, we're just going to be as gentle as we can whenever removing or putting this vinyl cape back on. There we go. And I'm going to move his arms forward. That should push the cape on the rest of the way. And I'm just probably not going to do much with this vinyl cape other than what I have to do. But he does look pretty cool with it on. It does definitely give him more of a 1980s action figure sort of look, even with this, Neca figure that's got its more detailed sculpting. The simplified paint job and the vinyl cape go a long way to making this feel like the old action figure. Speaking of which, let's get a shot of him with his buddy Frankenstein. The two that I picked up from the drugstore on that fateful day when I went there with my grandmother, and I saw these and I thought they were just so cool, and she said I could get two of them, so I got Dracula and I got Frankenstein. And to complete our monster trio, the whole unholy trinity of Universal monsters, here we got a shot of the Wolfman and Dracula and Frankenstein all together. Don't they look cool? Yeah. And we'll get one last shot comparing the Ultimate version to the glow in the dark version. And even though it's the same sculpt, it sure is a stark difference, isn't it? I'm glad I have both, because I think both are really cool in their own sort of ways. Like if I only had to pick one, I honestly don't know which one I would pick. I might go with the Ultimate version just because I do like fabric capes. So so yeah, but I do like that they gave him the final cape. That was a nice homage to the original figure. You can tell that the people who made these figures were people who had the original figures and loved them when they were kids and wanted to do right by them because they totally did right by them. So I still need to get the Mummy. He's at Target right now, so I can still get one of those. I know. Uh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get Phantom of the Opera or Creature from the Black Lagoon, but I would like to complete the set. So hopefully I'll be able to at some point. But I think that's pretty much it for Glow in the Dark Dracula. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe and all that fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure and about Count Dracula in general. We will talk to you next time. Bye.